Golden. What the hell just happened? Am I? Salutations. Salutations. Um, Siren, can you do me a favor? Can you check the YouTube stream for me and see if it's up? It says it's up, but it also give me an error message. Can you check it right quick and let me know if it's up? And just to make sure. What's up, Raven? What's up? Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, that's what happened today. Israel bombed Qatar and said they were, that's really thrown me off. And Donald Trump has told us that the signature on the card that the state of Epstein turned over was not his signature. And then there was a check that they were selling women with, and they had, I guess, a prank, a check that they were selling women with when him and Epstein was standing there side by side with the giant check, and Donald Trump was like, "I didn't sign the check." You were talking about selling women. I guess that's a prank, right? That was just a prank. That's a prank. What's up, Robert? That was just a prank. So we good, right? That was a prank, and there's nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. So that's what the and that listen, and that's just the preview of the show tonight. That was just the opening monologue. I haven't even got into what the show is actually going to be about tonight because we're going to talk about dun, dun, dun. Yes, for all of y'all who haven't seen my last video on Grand Wizard here, I mean United States Senator Eric Schmidt from the great state of Missouri. Hey Raven, this is your state. From the great state of Missouri, I give you Eric Smith, Senator Eric Smith. And if you watch my video on Eric Smith, and I showed a clip of his speech at the Klan rally, or what they're calling the National Conservatives Conference. I showed a clip of his speech. But tonight, we're going to watch the whole speech. Senator Smith, and it's like people like they listen to it and say, well, no, he didn't mean that. He didn't mean that. So we're going to listen to the whole speech in its entirety, where he basically lays out that America is for white people and white people only. That's the vision. That's the vision. And what's up, Cam? That's the vision. That's what we're going to be dealing with. And let me get my lemonade. Get your lemonade because we're going to watch the whole speech. Contact. Are we back? You know, it's interesting. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Are we here? I'm messing with you. Listen, are we back? Somebody let me know. Okay, we're back. It's interesting that I started talking about this, and all of a sudden everything goes down. And I have great internet. I have everything in my room is connected to the internet, and this room is connected, and everything else is still working. Everything else is still working, but somehow TikTok stream went down. The YouTube stream is still up, and the radio station is still on, and all that's connected to the internet. But somehow I talk about national conservatism and the Grand Wizard, I mean, the United States Senator here from the great state of Missouri, and talk about it. And yep, okay, right, it's still up. Tubi's still up. All right, and I got just as much internet strength as Tubi, I'm sure, if not more. Yeah, I have 8 gig. I have 8 terabytes. So let's get it. We're going to listen to the entire this speech is in its entirety, and we're gonna. Yes, y'all come here for the commentary. I know you come here for the commentary. So this is a 25-minute speech. Y'all get your snacks, buckle in, and let's listen to it. And yes, there will be commentary.
And there's a special significance to this conference this year. President Trump's victory wasn't just a victory for his movement, but for the ideas that the people in this room espouse. National conservatism is an idea whose time has arrived. The battle for our future is not between democracy and autocracy, capitalism and socialism, or even right and left in the old meaning of those terms. It's between the nation and the forces that would erase it. For decades, many of those in power, not just here but across the West, have been locked in a culture war with their own nations. We see that in many of the countries in Europe today, where the immigration crisis threatens to transform the ancient fabric of those nations, and all who object are menaced by an increasingly totalitarian censorship state. While our First Amendment has traditionally insulated us from the most extreme forms of censorship, America, too, is threatened by the same elites, driven by the same interests and the same ambitions. They are the elites who rule everywhere, but aren't really from anywhere. National conservatism is a revolt against this fundamentally post-American ruling class. This revolt from the right is a revolt from the right, but also a revolt within the right. For too long, conservatives were content to serve as the right wing of the regime. They too waged foreign wars in the name of global liberalism and democracy. They too rewrote our trade policies in service of the interests of global capital. They too supported amnesty and mass migration. The Washington Consensus was thoroughly a bipartisan affair. It required the support of both party establishments to survive. Until President Trump, the mainstream.
The brainwashing you have endured is astonishing. Doctor, the brainwashing who has endured? Yeah, the brainwashing who has endured? No, who are we talking about? Wow. While you answer that question, we're going to get back.
Right quibbled over the left's means, but hardly ever challenged its ends. Conservatives cheered foreign intervention after foreign intervention, not to defend America's actual national interest, but to pursue the same fantasy of a world safe for democracy that the Wilsonian liberals have peddled for nearly a century. They backed NAFTA and welcomed China into the World Trade Organization, not because it was good for American workers, but because it served the same vision of a borderless marketplace championed by the left, differing only over whether to trim a regulation here or tack on a labor standard there. But perhaps the best example was on the issue of immigration. The old conservative establishment may have opposed something like illegal immigration on procedural grounds, simply because it was illegal. But they took no issue with it in substance. If the same thing was achieved through legal avenues, many of them would celebrate and support it. At this point, it should be clear that the fact that something is sanctioned by our government doesn't mean it's good for our country.
Listen
That
to
much
that.
is obvious with various forms of
Did
legal
you hear
immigration
that?
today. For decades, we heard that so-called high-skilled immigration was an urgent necessity. The H-1B visa, for example, was sold as a way to keep America globally competitive. Of course, we do have an interest in attracting the truly exceptional few, the very best and the brightest in the world. But that's not how programs like H-1B have actually functioned. Instead, they've imported a vast new labor force from abroad, not to fill jobs.
And just for clarification, that's the same visa that Melania came to this country on. Just so that we throw that in there. One of the visa systems he's talking about is the visa system that Melania overstayed her welcome on. But I digress. Move right along.
Americans can't or won't do, but to fill jobs Americans can't, but to undercut American wages, replace American workers, and transfer entire industries into the hands of foreign lobbies. We've funneled in millions of foreign nationals to take the jobs, salaries, and futures that should belong to our own children. Not because the foreign workers are smarter or more talented, but merely because they're cheaper and more compliant, and therefore preferable in the eyes of too many business elites who often see their own countrymen as an inconvenience. While our trade agreements kneecapped blue-collar workers in a slow-moving disaster decades in the making, abuse of the H-1B program is kneecapping white-collar workers right before our eyes. For the tens of thousands of Americans who were forced to train their foreign H-1B replacements just to get their severance package, the fact that it's legal is of little comfort. For decades, the mainstream consensus on the left and the right alike seemed to be that America itself was just an idea, a vehicle for global liberalism. We were told that the entire meaning of America boiled down to a few lines in a poem on the Statue of Liberty and 5 words about equality in the Declaration of Independence. Any other aspect of American identity was deemed to be illegitimate and immoral, poisoned by the evils of our ancestors. The true meaning of America, they said, was liberalism, multiculturalism, endless immigration. In a speech in 1998, Bill Clinton said that the continuous influx of immigrants was, and I quote, a reminder that our America is not so much a place, but a promise. Well, let me just say, I believe our founding fathers were the
Yeah, I just said Melania was on that visa. It's not an awards program. It's a visa. It's called. They refer to it as the Einstein visa, and it's technically the visa. One of the visas he's mentioned is EB-1. It's supposed to be programmed for extraordinary individuals in the areas of science, arts, education, business, or athletics. Like I said, that's what it is. If you need a more adequate breakdown, it's not an award; it's a visa. Visas here talking about foreign all fall under that category of visas. The bigger categories, ones you mentioned, the breakdowns. The one I just said, Melania was in this country on.
most brilliant group of men ever assembled in any one place at any one time in any room. Their ideas are central to who we are. You can't understand America without understanding things like freedom of speech, the right to self-defense, the ideals of independence, self-government, and political liberty. But these principles aren't merely abstractions. They're living, breathing things rooted in a people and embodied in a way of life. It's only in that context do they
And just for clarification, we all know what Melania's extraordinary ability was.
become real. Take a trip out to rural Missouri and spend a little time with the folks out there, and you'll quickly realize that the Second Amendment isn't a classroom theory for them. It's part of who they are. If you impose a carbon copy of the U.S. Constitution on Kazakhstan tomorrow, Kazakhstan won't magically become America, because Kazakhstan isn't filled with Americans. It's filled with Kazakhstanis. What makes America exceptional isn't just that we committed ourselves to the principles of self-government. It's that we as a people are actually capable of living them. But the left took these principles and drained them from all
Right,
underlying
Cam.
substance, turning the American tradition into a deracinated ideological creed. To live up to that American creed, they told us, we had to transform America itself. If America was a universal proposition, then everything we inherited from our specific Western heritage had to be abolished. So the statues came down. The names are changed. Yesterday's heroes become today's villains. The story of the nation has to be rewritten to align America to its true creed. On the right, the situation wasn't all that different. The truth is, by the 1990s, too many on the right had come to accept the same basic worldview as the liberal elites they claimed to oppose. In foreign policy, trade, immigration, and the domestic culture wars, too many conservatives defined the American identity as nothing more than an abstract and vaguely defined proposition. Even if you didn't want to immigrate here, you were made to submit to that proposition anyway, via military crusades to bring Madisonian democracy to the furthest corners of the world. For years, conservatives would talk as if the whole world were just Americans in waiting, born American, but in the wrong place. America was, as one neoconservative writer put it, the first universal nation. That's what set Donald Trump apart from the old conservatism and the old liberalism alike. He knows that America is not just an abstract proposition, but a nation and a people with its own distinct history and heritage and interests. His movement is a revolt of the real American nation. It's a pitchfork revolution driven by the millions of Americans who felt they were turning into strangers in their own country. They were the forgotten men and women who wrapped themselves in our flag and drove hours to hear a real estate tycoon from New York speak because they knew he was speaking for them. They were the Americans whose factories were gutted in the name of free trade, whose sons were sent to die in wars that served no American interest, whose neighborhoods were transformed beyond recognition by immigration. They were the ones who worked the jobs, paid the taxes, fought the wars, followed the rules that upheld the very system that attacked them and dispossessed them, that mocked them and smeared them as bigots and deplorables, even though it relied on them to survive. And yet, in spite of it all, they stubbornly refused to forget who they were. They were, as Barack Obama sneered, the bitter clingers who still held to their guns, their religion, and their memory of a country that once belonged to them. These Americans had come to realize that their true adversary didn't live in the faraway sands of some foreign nation, but in the halls of their own government. And in 2016, they discovered that millions of their fellow citizens had arrived at the same conclusion. In Donald Trump's defiance, they recognized an echo of their own. It is their interest that Trump spoke to in 2016. It is in their interest that he remains loyal today. And it is in their interest, their values, their lives, that the American right must defend without apology or remorse if we want to remain viable in the future. The Continental Army soldiers dying of frostbite at Valley Forge, the Pilgrims struggling to survive in the hard winter soil of Plymouth, the pioneers striking out from Missouri for the wild and dangerous frontier, the outnumbered Kentucky settlers repelling wave after wave of Indian war band attacks from beyond the stockade walls. All of them will be astonished to hear that they were only fighting for a proposition. They believed they were fighting for a nation, a homeland for themselves and their descendants. They fought, they bled, they struggled, they died for us. They built this country for us. America, in all its glory, is their gift to us, handed down across the generations. It belongs to us. It's our birthright. It's our heritage, our destiny. If America is everything and everyone, then it is nothing and no one at all. But we know that's not true.
Now, I told you there will be commentary. Now, I just listen to those efforts he ran off: Valley Forge, the Pilgrims, and how he, and Missouri, going west from Missouri, Manifest Destiny, one of the most racist ideologies to ever be exemplified. But here's the thing: you notice how he left out all of the indigenous and others that made that possible. Like, if it wasn't for the indigenous Tequats that were in the Pilgrims landed that first winter, they would have died. And if I could travel back through time, I would tell them to let them die. It'd be better off. They would have died. Valley Forge, really? Really? If it wasn't for the intervention that winter, also, they would have died. And talking about going west, you went west, and first you had the help of an indigenous guide to guide you all west. And then you proceeded to, once you got they let you in, you proceeded to slaughter millions of indigenous people in this country. But it gets better. Let's just continue. It's better.
America is not a universal nation. It is something distinctive, unique, and real, unlike any other place or people in the history of mankind. Western civilization was defined by its restless, relentless, dynamic spirit,
Right.
a drive to create, explore, and discover that spurred the West to the heights of political, intellectual, and technological achievement unmatched by any civilization in human history. America was settled, founded, and built by the most adventurous, the most courageous, the most curious and innovative and risk-taking sons and daughters of the West. Our country is, in this important sense, the most essential Western nation. For our settlers' ancestors, the American frontier stretched out as the horizon of infinite possibility. It was here, on this continent, that the West realized its destiny. This, my friends, is why every great feat of the modern world bore American fingerprints. It was an American who created the Morse telegraph and later the telephone, collapsing vast distances into a single instant. It was an American who mapped the human genome, cracking the code of life itself. It was an American who invented the microchip, the modern computer, and the internet, ushering in the digital age. It was an American who gave the world the first airplane. And 24 years later, it was an American, from Missouri I might add, who first traversed the Atlantic Ocean in a single solo flight, a feat the world had dismissed as suicidal. It was an American who broke the sound barrier, who split the atom, who built the first skyscraper. It was an American who shattered all earthly limits and planted the first human footprints on the moon. It was an American, from Missouri I might add again, who devised the Hubble telescope and mapped the heavens. This is who we are.
Pick a
We're a
struggle.
nation of settlers, explorers, pioneers,
By
born on the
settlers,
ocean waters that carried the first ships to our shores
no, you're
and
immigrant.
forged in the crucible
You're
of a
immigrant.
wild frontier.
You're
Our people
immigrant.
tamed a continent, built a civilization from the wilderness, and wrote our nation's name into history. We Americans are the sons and daughters of the Christian pilgrims that poured out from Europe's shores to baptize a new world in their ancient faith. Our ancestors were driven here by destiny, possessed by urgent and fiery conviction, by burning belief, devoted to their cause and their God. All nations die. Most are quickly forgotten, confined to the footnotes of the ages.
Yeah, like
But
Rome.
thousands of years from now, when we and our country are long gone, people will still know the name America because of what these Americans achieved. The people who built our country were not villains, they're heroes. We can no longer apologize for who we are. I'm a Missouri boy, born and raised. I'm from the state where Lewis and Clark launched their expedition, where Jesse James lived and Daniel Boone died. The state that launched 1,000 wagon trails carrying American pioneers west to find their destiny. They called St. Louis, my hometown, the gateway to the West. The frontier wasn't a legend or a myth for folks where I'm from. It was real. It was in the names, the deeds, the land itself. My ancestors arrived from Germany in the 1840s during the first real wave.
Okay, okay. I need you to pick a struggle because he's talking about his ancestors were doing all those things before 1840, right? So your ancestors were not on the Mayflower. Your ancestors were not pilgrims. Your ancestors. Listen, I just, it just, and they just sit there like they just, no one noticed that, huh? Nobody noticed that. Now he's talking about German ancestors, right? Right. But he wanted to claim because they're white. Don't be wrong. They're still white. They're still white. But it's the idea that you just acknowledge your ancestors came from somewhere else to a land that already was here, and all of a sudden it's your heritage. Yeah.
Of new European settlers since Missouri became a state in 1821. Back then, Missouri was as far west as you could go. Think of the kinds of people it takes to do that, to build a home on the edge of the known world. Those are the kinds of people our ancestors were. The first settlers of my state were mostly Scotch-Irish, a hard, proud, fiercely independent people forged in the hills of Ulster and the backwoods of Appalachia, ideally suited to life on the edge of civilization. They were the ancestors, as it just so happens, of my friend and Vice President, J.D. Vance. As the historian David McCullough writes, the Scotch-Irish families that first settled Missouri saw themselves as the true Americans. Their idol was Andrew Jackson, Old Hickory of Tennessee, one man with courage makes a majority Jackson, the first president west of the Alleghenies. Their trust was in the Lord and common sense. That they were the forebears had survived at all in the backwoods of Kentucky or earlier in upland Virginia, the Carolinas, was due primarily to good hard sense, as they said, and no end to hard work. For some time now, we've been taught to be ashamed of these things that defined us, to treat our curiosity, our adventurousness, and ambition as a stain on our moral conscience. We've been taught that by settling this continent and building our home here, we committed a world historical sin. We committed, and that we should rue the day that our forefathers arrived in North America and condemn their vision, their strength, and their will as an expression of something perverse and evil. We saw a funny little example of this just the other month. The Department of Homeland Security's Twitter account posted an image of a famous painting, American Progress, one of the most iconic illustrations of manifest destiny depicting settlers striding outwards to the frontier, with Lady Columbia watching over them from above.
Manifest
The reaction
Destiny.
from the left was swift
Her name
and
was
expectantly
Manifest
hysterical.
Destiny.
In the Washington Post, a Princeton history professor declared that the painting glorified an American invasion of other people's homelands. The Independent reported that, according to the experts, the painting advanced a mythical narrative and erased the reality of American westward expansion. The LA Times speculated that it might be Nazi propaganda. Now, just as a matter of historical record, the Indians were perfectly capable of invading, killing, and enslaving each other all on their own for the centuries before we got here. They attacked, tortured, and brutalized our settlers, just as our settlers surely did the same to them. When we carved out our manifest destiny on this continent, it was not because we were less morally righteous, but because we had more sophisticated tools and methods. But that's really beside the point. For whatever human flaws one might point to, the American settling of the frontier was an expression of something deeper in the soul of our people. Most people in places and times in
Something
human
real
history
deep.
lived by the laws of necessity. Their thoughts and actions were governed by mere utility and not much more. The value of a thing for them lay in what kind of immediate material benefit it could provide. Men worked, thought, built, and acted for purposes as narrow as the walls of their towns and villages, to eat, to reproduce, to survive. They weren't interested in knowing what might exist beyond the sunset. They lived more or less the exact same way as their ancestors had lived thousands of years before them. That has never been true for us.
You understand, he's talking about people that had civilizations that were old before the Caucasus Mountains spit them up across Europe without even fire. Yeah, he's talking about people that had already circumnavigated the world by the time they learned to use fire to cook with. He's talking about great civilizations that had come and gone in the Indus River Valley and in what is modern day India. He's talking about people that had great civilizations in Timbuktu and Mali and Ethiopia, and they just laid on the scene. But I digress.
American heritage is not a narrative of oppression and evil.
Yes, it is. Literally, literally, America was built on oppression, right? And speaking of which, all of y'all who would like to help me continue these efforts and things we do for the community, for the homeless children, and Jamie, please, that's a cash app over there. If you appreciate these kind of things and commentary and want to help, I don't have a bus to sell you all, but we do the work. And if you would like to be part of that work, hit the cash app up. I mean, you can say you hit it up like some people did in the comment section last night and didn't do anything, but yeah, let's get.
But an unfolding story of our people's pioneering spirit, a spirit that drives us to expand beyond limits, to assert ourselves upon the world. It is a spirit that began on the frontier, but it would soon go to raise up great cities, cure diseases, discover distant galaxies, create marvels of technology and art, and forge new worlds in its image. We're not sorry. Why would we be sorry? America is the proudest and most magnificent heritage ever known to man. On July 4th, 2020, as the George Floyd riots raged across our nation, President Trump traveled to Mount Rushmore to address the nation. On our nation's anniversary, as anarchists looted and defaced and tore down statues and monuments all across the country, the president stood before the granite cliff face and declared, "This monument will never be desecrated. These heroes will never be defaced. Their legacy will never, ever be destroyed." If you want to know who we are, look no further than the monument that stood behind him. Mount Rushmore took 14 years and hundreds of men to build it. They climbed 700.
Anybody want to talk about what area, who had to be displaced in that area for Mount Rushmore in the park to exist? Anybody want to talk about the Dakota indigenous tribes that were there?
Stairs every day to be lowered down on ropes over a cliff face, sometimes in the blazing heat, sometimes in bitter cold, to carve the faces of our heroes into the side of a great mountain. There was no particular practical need for this. It's just who we are. We're Americans. We did it because we could.
And that line killed me when he said there was no practical need for this, but we did it anyway because we could. All right. Remember that when it comes back to haunt you.
For decades, the people in power sought to turn our past into a repressed memory, something so awful that we would prefer to forget about it altogether. They made self-hatred and shame our new civic religion. Let me say this today as clearly as I can. We are done being ashamed. We love our country, and we will never apologize for the great men who built it. To transform a nation, you have to transform the way it understands itself. In the French Revolution, the radicals abolished the old calendar and began the clock back over again at year one. The radicals of our time want to do the same. It's why they're obsessed with controlling speech. They want to rewrite our language itself. When they tear down our statues and monuments, mock our history, and insult our traditions, they're attacking our future as well as our past. By changing the stories we tell about ourselves, they believe they can build a new America with the new myths, a new people. But America doesn't.
And this is the thing that gets me. Like I say, to understand that they use English all their lives and don't know how to use it so it doesn't tell on them. He said new myths. New myths. In order to talk about new myths, you have to acknowledge that you must have had some old myths in the mix, right? He talks about new myths, like people are trying to create new myths. Hmm. But this whole manifest destiny, white man great, is a myth that was created and propagated for hundreds of years in this country. I digress.
Belong to them. It belongs to us. It's our home. It's a heritage entrusted to us by our ancestors. It's a way of life that is ours and only ours. If we disappear, then America too will cease to exist. The
You hear
sculptor who
that?
designed
You hear that? That is one of the most dangerous things in this speech. He is thinking that if white people disappear, quote unquote, then America will cease to exist. This is a call. This is probably telling people in my comment section when they be saying stupid shit like, oh, they're stupid and all that. People are racist and bigots because they choose to be. Y'all need to stop making excuses for their racism and bigotry and accept. There are plenty of stupid people that are liberals too. It doesn't make you racist because you're stupid. Your choice to be racist is what it is. And you all need to stop making excuses for it. Or if y'all hear something racist and bigoted, to just dismiss it by saying, oh, they're so uneducated. Uneducated or not. they still choose to be racist. Because I know a lot of uneducated people, and they're not racist because they're uneducated. Trust me, some of them talk on this app and pretend like they know what they're talking about. But yeah, when y'all turn high-powered analytical ability on just stupid and ignorant, might want to do some mirror checking because this is the dangerous part of this. Because what are they willing to do to preserve their whiteness?
Mount Rushmore initially left 3 extra inches of granite on the surface, so the natural erosion would gradually shape it into its final form over the next 30,000 years. What a confident expression and testament to America. He built it so that Americans, thousands of years from now maybe, would still look upon it in awe at the faces of Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Roosevelt. This fight that we're in, that we're all in, is about whether America will remain what she has always been, and whether we'll still have a country to call our own, and what America was supposed to be and is the apex and the vanguard of Western civilization. A strong, sovereign nation, not just an idea, but a home belonging.
The vanguard. Like I say, they use language and it's so easy that they're telling on themselves. The vanguard. We'll come back and talk about vanguard in just a moment.
To a people bound together by a common past and a shared destiny. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Have a great conference. Thank you.
And there you have it. And there you have it. You all can say now that you didn't hear just a clip of the speech. You heard his entire speech. You got to hear
And there's a special
the entire speech on national conservatism. National conservatism conference that is nothing more than Plan 5.0. It's not 1 point. It's not 2 point. It's not 3 point. It's not 4 point. It's the fifth. It's the fifth version of the Klan's ideology. It's the carry on of the version of white supremacy. And it's there was nothing new that I heard in this speech that I have not studied and heard from white supremacists back before tiki torches were being carried, going back to the 1940s when the Klan was marching openly down the streets of D.C. to thinking about the fact, well, it wasn't a Klan in 1840. It was just a bunch of white people that believed in white supremacy. The Klan formed in its basis in Pulaski, Tennessee, spreading out to terrorize black and brown people. It's nothing new. This is who they are. Do you understand that? This is who they are. The Vanguard is a group of people that are leading the way in new developments and ideas. They're not the vanguard. That's the whole point. When I hear them say words, they're not leading um, the way in developing new ideas. They're in leading the way in entrenching existing ideas of racism and bigotry. That that governor, that senator, that was his audition for Grand Wizard of Missouri. That's what you basically just listened to. That was his. That was him auditioning for the title of Grand Wizard of Missouri. He didn't leave anything out. He did not leave anything out. He hit all of those strong points. He hit all the high marks and labeling white nationalism. And oh, he did leave out prayer in school, but don't worry about it. Donald Trump took care of that over the weekend also. So now that you all have heard his entire, and if you saw my video on the clip, I'm interested. I'm interested, and I want you all, and I'm not interested in talk about how stupid people are because that's not moving the needle and it's doing harm. It is doing harm. The idea, and that's why I tell y'all, some people run around here talking about other people's, but it is doing harm to dismiss this ideology as just them being stupid. They, they live in the delusion of their history and it advances their cause. They're not stupid. This is choice. This is choice. Okay? So I need you all to stop coming into my comment section every time I show you something and saying they're stupid and then going about your business. Because at the end of the day, that's problematic. It's just like this is the point where, what, 8 months into this presidency, and people are still talking about, well, they got what they voted for. I'm going to start slapping people because I'm saying, well, you don't care about my grandmother having to work longer. She didn't vote for that. I'm tired of hearing people say people got what they voted for while the unemployment rate for black people is at 7.5%. I'm tired of people talking about we got what they voted for when they are not being as adversely affected by that as black and brown people are. No immigrant that is being deported voted for Donald Trump. None. None. This is a statement of when they say make America great again, the most honest answer I've ever seen just came from the senator from Missouri. He just told you what Americans are talking about. It's a it's a restatement of a declaration of war, Cam. They've been at war. See, that's the thing. They've been at war. We just have stupid ass people on what they call the left acting like they were winning. We have stupid ass people that call themselves left leaning who thought they were winning. The same people who couldn't even codify Roe into law. Yeah, I'm calling y'all out. Couldn't codify Roe into law. And y'all have the nerve to think y'all are winning right now. They've been at war. They've been at war. They just better at it than Democrats were. And they're not even Republicans. If you want to know the truth, that's an ideology that is embedded in who they are. Republican or Democrat. That's embedded. That's who they are. And us their blueprint televised. No, Juice, we've been. Okay, let me try. This is the same blueprint that has been part of American lexicon since 1776. And I say that because America didn't exist before 1776. Just an idea. You can go back and read some of the papers that were written in opposition to abolitionists from the 18th century. And it's the same kind of idea. Manifest destiny was the belief in everything he just said. Manifest destiny literally was the belief in everything he said. America for white people. They came here, a generation, they were indigenous to this land. After one generation, they they were the founding fathers. Listen to their name, the founding fathers. You stole the first ten amendments to your Constitution from a combination of Iroquois, indigenous tribes laws, and the Magna Carta. What you call the founding fathers? Yeah, founding fathers. But I digress. It's the same. No, y'all are just I understand my problem now because I'm talking to people who have never that they just woke up to it and think it's new. It's not. My parents were fighting the same thing. My parents would not be surprised by anything they heard today. My grandmother would not be surprised by anything she heard today. It's like people, and it's like somebody in my comment makes a stupid ass statement. Oh, the more we hear, the more we wake up. What do you fuck you mean? What do you think lynchings were? If anything, our foreparents endured more violence because of this than we. more violence, and we won't even fight. Our ancestors, my grandparents, my parents were out there fighting when the time when they could get shot, beat up, and not even have to worry about they're selling, worry about a court date. I keep saying, I just be wondering, am I speaking English? Somebody tell me, hablo español, comprende español, loco. My Portuguese isn't that good. But am I speaking a language that anyone understands that the pushback they give me is not rooted in fact or history? The fact is that Birth of a Nation, 1915. Anyone? This message is not new. I only played it because people are not listening to it or haven't listened to it in history. I play it because I want you all to see in a language that maybe you understand better than me when some white man said that maybe you all will get it. This is war, like Cam said, but it's not a war we just woke up to. It is a war I have lived in my entire life. And I know white people are just waking up to it because now it is spread to encompass you all. So that's what I be listening at when I say white people's like, oh, this is horrible. It has been horrible. Do we not understand that? These are the same people that were slave catchers, slave traders, were plantation owners, were politicians that embedded slavery and the idea of oppression of the patriarchy into the system. These are the same motherfucking people. You understand that this is not new. Oh, hold on. Yes, Reese. I was doing good, huh, Reese? I was doing good. I was proud of myself. That's because I had a long ass 30-minute speech. All right, DCP on. I'll get y'all tomorrow. TJ, yeah, TJ, we'll holler at you tomorrow too. I'm gonna start cussing. Oh my goodness, now I got this. Yeah, I'm gonna start cussing. I'm gonna start cussing. That's why Reese got me on free. It's the same message. It's nothing new. I know white people don't think it's new, but it's not. It's the same message that we were lynched under. It's the same message that towns that were predominantly black that were self-sufficient were burnt to the ground under. Yes, you're doing very well. Thank you. It's the same. It's the same. It's the same. It is the same that burned down Tulsa, that burned down Wilmington, that burned down Rosewood, lynched black people by the thousands after slavery was supposed to be over. Jim Crow, the same political thought pattern that didn't do anything about Jim Crow. It is the same when I watch people embracing gerrymandering all of a sudden and saying that this is what we can do about it. But when black people were fighting for the right to vote in the same system in other cities and states in the South, people sat and let them gerrymander it to death, but they didn't have a problem with the black vote being gerrymandered. Not all of a sudden because white people's vote gerrymandered in a way that doesn't protect their power level. All of a sudden, we got a gerrymander everywhere. We're not going to wait for the 10 years that we're supposed to wait for. All of a sudden, all those times when Mississippi, while I was out there fighting gerrymandering, or in Alabama fighting gerrymandering, or in Louisiana fighting gerrymandering, all of goddamn sudden, all these white people will jump on board and say, yes, gerrymandering. We can do something about this now. And you want, I can tell you, I keep telling people have to feel what Bruce Banner told Captain America when he talked about anger. Because I stay the fuck angry. I don't have to, I control my anger because I've been friends with it for a long goddamn time. And I stay angry. This is what hides beyond the surface when you all be talking to me. This is it. I stay angry. I stay angry about a system that, and I get angrier now because all of a sudden All of a sudden, people want to fall out the woodwork and talk about we right. It is the height of insult to tell me that you know what you were right. God damn it, I have 40 years of right history. Now you wake up to it, you now need your validation of something else. Goddamn right. My parents were right. My grandparents were right. Mary Turner was right as she hung dangling from a bridge trying to protect her family. Don't come in here and tell me I'm right or you understand now. After my history is littered with dead friends and dead family members that were right also. Then always asking me, what do we do? What do we do? I keep telling you what to do. What part am I not? What English speaking part am I missing when I tell you this is what we do? This is what we do. What part? Somebody make it make sense. H. Rap Brown. Yeah, he was H. Rap Brown then, so I'm gonna let that slide. To the Black Panther Party should be listened to again today. I'm gonna let it slide because he was H. Rap Brown in 19. Um, um, we'll call him Jamel Allah. Allah. So that's what his name is. That's what he is. 81 years old. 81 years old. Right, coach. But at the end of the day, I need you all to understand that lip service, and you stop expecting your children to save you too. I have different advice for children than I do for grown ass adults. Yeah, like the lady who was all on television while her daughter was out at 16 protesting. I'm so proud of her. We taught her so well. How the fuck you teach her so well? They had to come to your home to interview you while she out at a real protest. Your 16 daughter out to protest. You at home talking to the news about your daughter who's at a protest. What the fuck? Anybody want to make that make sense? I tell my daughter to stay home. I'll be out. That's it. And I mean, talking about underage daughters, 16, 17. Yeah, we can't be expecting. We out here talking about they children out here. Listen, you know how many protests I went to for the March for Their Lives, and I'm out here and I'm like, all these children, where are their parents? Children are marching to save their own schools from violence that is a byproduct of their parents' lifetime, and they got to be out here marching. Yeah, I was ready to do so much violence at that event. If anyone would try to hurt their children, I was going to do violence because your parents not here, but they all talking about they proud. My child staged a school walkout. Yeah, yeah, because they had a shooting at their school. Oh, yeah, yeah. Of course, they should stage a school walkout. They should start us to having a walkout on you fuck ass parents too. Um, and I guess I'm in a mood if it, 'cause, I tutor children that are scared to go to school because ICE is going around here um, taking students, um, trying to get them to snitch on their parents. So, yeah, and I would like to thank you all that do help me to do the things we do. I'd like to thank you all. And those of you all who just talk the talk and don't do shit, keep doing keep doing what you appreciate. It's the same people all the time. But like I said, if you would like to go national conservatism. Don't send it to the national conservatism. Like to help that Cash App open is open. But that's it. So I need to understand when I say I don't follow white liberals. This is why, because they are technically just waking up to the problem. I guess I need to be back there with the Weather Underground, the White Panthers. They got it. They didn't need a block of explanation to understand. They got it. The Weather Underground didn't have to ask the Panthers what they needed them to bring out when they stormed the FBI headquarters. When they robbed when they broke into the FBI building, they didn't have to stop and say, "Let me check with the Panthers and see what they need us to bring to them." They didn't have to like, hey, we got some paperwork here. Who you need? No, they just came, dropped it off, and it was because that's what camaraderie is, and that's what comrades do. When you understand the cause, you don't need to be explained it every 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes, it's like when people go around here talking about they're colorblind. What the fuck? You think that's a statement of some kind of great awakening? I'm colorblind. Well, I'm colored. I'm of color. So if you're blind, that means you only see me in virtue of yourself. Colorblind is not accepting the life experiences that I have had as a black man that have been based upon my color. And you saying that to me is insultive, that you're colorblind. That's insulting. That means you don't see me in my fullness. You don't see this melanin. I don't say that when you pull up to a stop sign or a red light, do you? I'm just gonna run it because I'm not sure. Or I'm just gonna stop because I'm colorblind. But all of a sudden you think race is fixed by being colorblind. No, that means you only see white. You only see things through the lens of your own perspective. And then you can't understand how we have to navigate this life based upon the color of our skin. And then y'all quick to quote Dr. King. Well, Dr. King wanted to be judged on the content of his character. Y'all don't listen to him. He said one day I think we should live in a world where that's the standard. But we don't live in that world. And we can't even talk about the world until we first get out of the world where the color of our skin does impact the way we're treated in society and could possibly lead to our death on a basis. So, like I said, make it make sense. Get off the little screen, on the big screen, on the big screen. Are there any questions about anything we've covered tonight? Anything I need to reiterate? Anything I need to add to? Anything I said that did that I don't feel like I explained succinctly, or I don't want. There's no pressure on. If you have questions, now is the time to ask them. Because when you don't ask me questions, I assume you understand. And then when you do something showing me you didn't understand, I snap because you had the perfect opportunity to ask me more details about anything I talk about. And so when you don't ask questions, I think you understand. So then especially if I move you into any circles of interaction with me, I assume because you don't ask questions, you understand what the requirements are. I think you need to do an impromptu quiz to see the will you play peek with me? Oh man, are you clear? I'm not confused. Pirates, right? Yeah, I understand, and I open it up, and I don't listen. If you come into my live or you travel in the circles I travel in, and you expect this to be easy, or you expect, if you can't handle pushback, if you can't handle the fact that I might be a little aggressive with you verbally, but I'm not going to hurt you physically. But if you can't handle the physical or the verbal aggression, then you can't call yourself ready for activism. If you can't handle the friendly discourse, then you sure as hell gonna snap under the weight of what we face. I give you what I face on a regular basis. I give you what I face on a regular basis. I give you the me that walks into a room, looks around, surveys the room, realizes there's a bunch of mediocre white men in here, and I can beat physically every one of them. I'm mentally sharper than every one of them, but they're gonna have the nerve, the indignity to make certain inferences about my character. I don't care. I'd be like, I can beat you. I can beat you up, fuck your wife, and be home before lunch, and there's nothing you can do about it. All right. Is that a question that I missed? New doc series on HBO, seeing the history of black television. I know you like docs. Hold on, I'll show you something. Yes, you know I like docs. Let me show you how much I like docs. Dun 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 dun. I'm going to dun, 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 dun. Going through my files. Yeah, I've already downloaded it. Yeah, yeah, I've already downloaded it. Matter of fact, we're going to show you some of the things we have upcoming in the calendar. Bum, 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 bum. For those of you all who like documentaries, like Women Like Us, give you a preview of some things. I don't know if I want to pause this because I want you to be. America's 70 million acres of forest lands are our nation's carbon sink, continuously taking carbon out of the atmosphere and storing it in trees. Before I get to this, let me log off of YouTube so my video won't get a violation. All right, YouTube, we out of here. We're going to do some